Is the destiny of a nation and the freedom of its most controversial figure now hanging by the thin thread of a few legal conditions? Or are we witnessing a masterstroke of diplomacy that will finally break the deadlock in the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu?
Hold it there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. Asem gidi ya mara nwoke mma, mara nwaanyị mma. Ụtụtụ ọma nụ. Igbo bụ Igbo. Onye ọbụla chịrị ebe o chịrị, asem ya zero. Ndụ mmiri ndụ azụ. Mmiri atana azụ anwụrụ. Finally, according to the information reaching me here, from a very reliable source, Clement Ikuru Inspiration, an investigative journalist, he says, and I quote, that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu finally accepts terms and conditions presented by the Court of Appeal presiding officers. I repeat, maybe you didn't hear me well, that Nnamdi Kanu finally accepts terms and conditions presented by Court of Appeal presiding officers. What are the conditions? You are going to hear everything in this clip I'm about to play to you. But I want you to do me a favor, please. Let this message go viral. If you truly Mazi Nnamdi Kanu accept terms and conditions, well, so be it. But the terms and conditions is not limited to your hearing. You are going to listen to everything one after the other. And then after that, please give your own verdict. Yes, because everybody is a lawyer. In a family where you hail from, you have been judging one case or the other. So you are automatically either a lawyer or a judge, depending on the area you are operating. So you watch this message finish and want to hear your own verdict. What is your take over this matter? Should him have accepted terms and conditions, or should he have rejected them? I cannot say, because power belongs to the people. So let the people make the judge. Or rather, let the people judge the case. I rest my case on God. Let us listen, and later we will come back to dissect more of the messages from the comment section of this clip. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please follow us on all our social media handles. It shall be well with all of us. Today is 28th day in the month of April in the year of 2026. It is well.
This is the question that every Nigerian, every Biafran, and every observer of international justice is asking right now as news breaks that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra has reportedly accepted the terms and conditions laid down by the Court of Appeal. This is not just another day in court, and this is not just another legal update. This is a moment of profound significance that could redefine the political and judicial landscape of our country. As we dive into this, I want you to set aside the headlines for a moment and look at the chess pieces being moved on the board, because what is happening behind the scenes is far more complex than a simple agreement to follow court rules.
If you're hearing these words,
the case of Nnamdi Kanu has been a lightning rod for tension, hope, anger, and legal gymnastics. We have seen him abducted from Kenya, brought back to Nigeria, held in the custody of the Department of State Services, and we have seen courts discharge and acquit him only for the government to hold its ground. But today, the narrative is shifting. The fact that Kanu's legal team, led by some of the most brilliant minds in the country, sat down with the presiding officers of the appeal court suggests a level of engagement we haven't seen in a long time. It suggests a readiness to play the game within the four walls of the temple of justice rather than just in the court of public opinion. Let us look closely at what these terms actually represent. On the surface, the court is asking for things that seem like standard legal procedure, but in the context of this specific case, nothing is ever truly standard. The court has promised a guarantee of fair hearing. Now, to a layperson, that sounds like a given. It is a constitutional right. But for Nnamdi Kanu and his followers, a fair hearing has been the very thing they claim has been missing since this ordeal began. By explicitly stating this as a condition, the court is essentially saying that the slate is being wiped clean for this specific appeal. It is a signal to the world that the judiciary wants to maintain its independence, even when dealing with a case that is as politically charged as a lightning bolt. If the judges remain truly neutral as they have pledged, it means the government's lawyers will have to work twice as hard to justify the continued detention of a man who has already won several legal battles. Another key piece of this puzzle is the agreement that the court will control all procedures. You might ask why this is a headline. Well, if you have followed the history of these proceedings, you know that they often become spectacles. There are crowds, there are chants, there are delays, and there are outbursts. By agreeing to let the court dictate the structure of the arguments and the conduct of the proceedings, Kanu's team is signaling a transition from the revolutionary style of defense to a strictly intellectual and legalistic approach. This is a sophisticated move. It takes away the government's excuse to claim that the trial cannot proceed due to security concerns or disorderly conduct. It places the burden of progress squarely on the shoulders of the law itself. Then there is the issue of the trial records. Reports say Kanu will be granted full access to every document, every piece of evidence, and every previous ruling. This is massive. For a long time, the defense has complained about being blindfolded, about not having the necessary tools to build a robust counter-argument. Now, the doors are being opened. When you give a legal team of this caliber full access to the archives of the case, you are essentially giving them the ammunition they need to find the cracks in the prosecution's wall. This suggests that the coming days in court will be a battle of facts and precedents rather than just emotional appeals or technical delays. But there are also constraints that Kanu has had to accept, and this is where the discipline comes in. The court has imposed strict time limits for oral submissions. In the past, legal arguments in Nigeria could drag on for months with lawyers speaking for hours on end. Not this time. Kanu has agreed to follow a schedule. He has agreed that he cannot speak indefinitely. For a man whose voice has been his most powerful weapon, this might seem like a setback, but if you look at it from a creative director's perspective, it's actually a way to sharpen the message. It forces the defense to be concise, to hit the most important points with surgical precision, and to leave no room for the prosecution to wander into irrelevant territory. The court is also encouraging the use of legal counsel, even though Kanu has often been vocal in his own defense. This is a subtle way of saying that the law is a maze, and even the bravest lion needs a guide to navigate it. By accepting this, Kanu is showing a level of pragmatism that we haven't always seen. He is trusting the system to a certain extent, or at least he is trusting his lawyers to beat the system at its own game. It shows a leader who is willing to adapt his strategy to the environment he finds himself in. We also have to talk about the discipline in the courtroom. No interruptions, no disorderly behavior. This is about optics as much as it is about law. For the international community, which is watching this case very closely, a disciplined and orderly trial reflects well on the defendant. It portrays him as a man of principle who respects the institutions he is challenging. It strips away the labels of a rabble-rouser and replaces them with the image of a statesman seeking justice through the proper channels. This is a crucial shift for the Biafran audience as well. It shows that the struggle is moving into a phase of intellectual maturity. Now, why does this matter to the average person in the southeast or the Nigerian citizen concerned about the rule of law? It matters because the resolution of the Nnamdi Kanu case is directly tied to the peace and stability of a significant portion of the country. For the Biafran audience, Kanu is not just a man, he is a symbol of their grievances and their aspirations. Seeing him engage with the court in this structured way provides a glimmer of hope that a resolution is possible without further bloodshed or economic paralysis. It suggests that there is a path forward that doesn't involve perpetual conflict. For the Nigerian state, this is a test of its democratic credentials. The world is watching to see if the Tinubu administration will allow the judiciary to function without interference. If Kanu follows these rules and the court finds in his favor, will the government respect the outcome? By accepting these terms, Kanu is essentially putting the Nigerian justice system on trial. He is saying, I will play by your rules, now let's see if you can be fair. It is a high-stakes gamble, but it is one that he seems ready to take. We must also look at the political commentary surrounding this. Some say these are just standard procedures and that there is nothing new here. But in a case this sensitive, even the reaffirmation of standard procedures is a political statement. It means that the back-channel negotiations, the pleas from Igbo elders, and the international pressure are finally creating a space where the law can operate. The fact that the presiding officers themselves met with the lawyers is a sign of the weight they are giving this. It isn't just a clerk handing over a piece of paper. It is a high-level briefing that sets the stage for a monumental legal showdown. As we look ahead, the hidden details lie in the timing. Why now? Perhaps it is because the legal team sees a window of opportunity in the current judicial climate. Perhaps it is because the physical health and well-being of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu require a swift conclusion to this saga. Whatever the reason, the agreement to these terms is a clear indication that the defense is ready to go on the offensive within the courtroom. They aren't just defending anymore, they are preparing to prove their case with a level of organization and discipline that we haven't seen in the previous years of this trial. The shock factor that people are talking about isn't just about the terms themselves, but about what they represent. A total shift in strategy. Many expected Kanu to remain defiant and reject any form of cooperation with the court. By doing the opposite, he has caught his detractors off guard. He is demonstrating that he is not afraid of the law because he believes the law is on his side. This move shifts the pressure onto the prosecution. If Kanu is ready to be disciplined, focused, and timely, the prosecution can no longer use his alleged unruly behavior as a reason to stall. This is a story about the power of the rule of law and the resilience of a man who has become a focal point of a national crisis. It is a story that affects the market woman in Aba, the student in Enugu, the politician in Abuja, and the diaspora in London and Washington. The ripples of this agreement will be felt far beyond the walls of the appeal court. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one where the arguments will be sharp, the scrutiny will be intense, and the stakes could not be higher. I want you to think about the courage it takes to step into a system that you have criticized so harshly and say, I will play by your rules. That is what Kanu is doing. And I want you to think about the responsibility of the judges who have set these terms. They have promised a fair hearing and neutrality. If they deliver on that promise, it will be a victory for justice in Nigeria, regardless of the eventual verdict. If they fail, it will be a dark day for our democracy. We are entering a phase where the noise will subside and the law will speak. The terms have been set, the conditions have been accepted, and the legal teams are sharpening their pencils. This is the moment where we see if the Nigerian state can handle the challenge of justice and if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu can find his way to freedom through the very system that has kept him in chains.
Before we proceed, let me read this comment. Agoho Udo. We are tired of the court. Many courts have gave our leader freedom, but Nigerian government use their power and hold him till now. Enough is enough. We only want them to release him unconditionally, not with terms and conditions. Exactly what I said earlier on. Please enjoy the rest of the news.
It is a legal drama of the highest order, a political thriller with real-world consequences, and a human story of endurance and strategy. Keep your eyes on the details. Watch how the court handles the time limits. Watch how the defense uses the trial records they have finally been granted. And most importantly, watch how the people respond. This is a collective journey we are on, and the outcome of this appeal will echo through the history books for generations to come. The era of uncertainty is giving way to a period of structured legal battle, and for the first time in a long time, the path forward seems to have a clear set of rules. Whether those rules lead to a cell or to the streets of Umuahia remains to be seen, but the game has officially changed. In conclusion, the agreement to these terms is not a surrender, it is a strategic alignment. It is the calculated move of a man who knows that in the theater of law, the one who follows the rules most effectively is often the one who wins. It is a message to his followers to remain calm and let the process work, and it is a challenge to the Nigerian government to prove that it truly believes in the justice it professes. The stage is set, the actors are in place, and the world is waiting for the curtain to rise on what will undoubtedly be the most important appeal in modern Nigerian history. Stay tuned, because the details that emerge from this point on will not just shock you, they will define the future of a nation. When we consider the weight of these new developments, we have to look beyond the cold text of the law and see the human heartbeat of a region that has been holding its breath for years. To understand why this shift in the appeal court is so monumental, we have to talk about the psychological fatigue that has set in across the southeast. For a long time, the legal battles of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu felt like a cycle of hope and heartbreak. Every time a court gave a favorable ruling, there was a feeling of imminent release, followed by the crushing weight of a government refusal to obey or a new set of charges. By Kanu accepting these specific times now, he is effectively breaking that cycle of stagnation. He is saying that he is ready to move past the procedural bickering and get to the meat of the matter. This isn't just about his freedom anymore. It is about the legitimacy of the entire struggle he represents. If he can win within this framework, it validates his position in a way that no amount of rhetoric ever could. We also need to talk about the silence that often surrounds the negotiation process. When we hear that his legal team met with the presiding officers, we should realize that this is a very rare and high-level interaction. Usually, you deal with the registrar or you file papers through the court clerk. For the presiding officers to be directly involved in briefing the defense on the conditions of the appeal suggests that the judiciary is taking extraordinary measures to ensure there is no room for error.
You do not need to spend hours
Essentially building a glass house for this trial, where every move is visible to the public and the international community. This is a massive win for the defense because it creates a layer of accountability that was arguably missing in the lower courts. It means that any attempt to move the goalposts mid-game will be immediately obvious to everyone watching. let us dig deeper into the condition concerning the control of procedures and the structure of arguments. In the Nigerian legal system, cases often fall apart not because the law is unclear, but because the process becomes chaotic. You have motions upon motions, technicalities that drag on for years, and a general sense of judicial theatre. By agreeing to a structured environment where the judges dictate the pace and the scope, Kanu is essentially betting on the strength of his legal arguments. He is saying that he doesn't need the theatre, he just needs the truth. This is a powerful signal to the Biafran audience that their leader is confident in the facts of his case. It suggests that the defense has found a way to bridge the gap between political activism and legal reality. They are preparing to argue the law, not just the politics. The provision for full access to trial records is another area where we should see a significant shift. For years, there has been a lingering suspicion that some of the evidence used against Kanu was either flimsy or withheld from the defense for tactical reasons. Now that the appeal court has made it a condition that he must have everything, every scrap of paper, every witness statement, every digital trail, the prosecution is in a tight spot. They can no longer hide behind the veil of national security or procedural delays. This access is the oxygen that a defense team needs to breathe. It allows them to cross-reference every claim made by the state with the actual evidence on record. If there are inconsistencies, they will find them. If there are falsehoods, they will expose them. This is why some analysts are saying that the government might be shocked by what happens next. The defense is being given the keys to the library, and they are going to read every single book. Then there is the matter of the strict time limits for oral submissions. This might be the most difficult condition for a movement that is built on long-form oratory and passionate speeches. But in the world of high-stakes law, brevity is your best friend. When you have a limited window to speak, you are forced to discard the fluff and focus on the jugular. It forces the lawyers to answer the most difficult questions directly. It prevents the state from using its typical strategy of exhaustion, where they try to wear down the court and the defense with endless delays. By agreeing to this, Kanu is essentially turning the trial into a sprint rather than a marathon. He wants a conclusion and he wants it fast. This sense of urgency is something the people in the Southeast have been praying for. They want an end to the uncertainty that has crippled local economies and led to so much tension on the streets. The encouragement to use legal counsel, even for a man as knowledgeable as Kanu, is a subtle nod to the complexity of what is to come. This isn't a regional court or a small town tribunal. This is the appeal court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The stakes are as high as they can possibly be. By accepting this guidance, Kanu is showing a level of maturity that reflects his growth as a political figure. He is recognizing that to defeat a state as powerful as Nigeria in its own court, you need the most sophisticated tools available. His legal team consists of some of the best constitutional lawyers in West Africa. By letting them take the lead within these new terms, he is essentially deploying a legal special forces unit. They aren't there to make noise, they are there to win. We also have to consider the impact of his commitment to courtroom discipline. For those who follow the Biafran struggle, the image of Nnamdi Kanu has often been one of defiance, of a man who speaks truth to power regardless of the consequences. While that defiance remains, it is now being channeled into a disciplined legal strategy. This is a masterstroke in terms of public relations. It makes it impossible for the government to paint him as an anarchist or a man who doesn't respect the law. It forces the court to look at him as a citizen seeking justice, which is a much harder person to keep in a cell than a revolutionary leader. This change in conduct will likely soften the stance of some of the neutral observers who were previously skeptical of his methods. For the audience in Nigeria and across the globe, this update should be seen as a turning point in the conversation about self-determination and the rule of law. It shows that even the most contentious issues can be brought back to the table of justice if the conditions are right. It also puts a heavy burden on the Nigerian state to prove that its institutions are capable of handling such a sensitive case with the required neutrality. If the court follows through on its promise of a fair hearing, and Kanu follows through on his promise of discipline, we are going to see a clash of legal philosophies that will be studied for decades. This isn't just about one man anymore. It's about whether the Nigerian system can actually work for everyone, including those who challenge its very foundations. There is a hidden layer here that we must address, and that is the political temperature of the country. We are in an era where the government is facing multiple challenges, from economic pressures to security issues across the north and south. Resolving the Nnamdi Kanu case through a structured and respected legal process could be a way for the administration to de-escalate tensions in the southeast without appearing to surrender to a separatist movement. It allows everyone to save face. And say they followed the law, and the defense can say they won through the law. This alignment of interests is likely why these terms were proposed and accepted at this specific moment. It is a win-win scenario in a landscape that has been defined by lose-lose outcomes for too long. As we move forward, we should expect the proceedings to be intense. The shock that the headlines are mentioning is likely the realization that the defense has a much stronger hand than people previously thought. By agreeing to these terms, they are essentially saying they have nothing to hide and everything to gain. They are inviting the light of the court to shine on every corner of the case. For the prosecution, this is a nightmare scenario. They are used to a defense that is reactive and emotional. They are now facing a defense that is proactive, disciplined, and technically proficient. The momentum has shifted, and you can feel it in the air from the courtrooms in Abuja to the markets in Onitsha. To my brothers and sisters in the southeast, I say this: watch the process, but watch it with a discerning eye. The acceptance of these terms is a tactical move of the highest order. It doesn't mean the struggle has ended, but it means the arena has changed. The battle is no longer being fought just on the streets or over the airwaves. It is being fought in the heart of the legal system. This is where the most lasting victories are won. If Kanu can secure his freedom through this process, it will be a testament to his resilience and the skill of his team. It will also be a moment of reckoning for the Nigerian judiciary.
A moment of reckoning for the Nigerian judiciary, whatever they call them. Did you think Nigerian judiciary, they need this, all this dogon trenching? They don't need it, my brother. Well, in fact, the situation we find ourselves into, not only our ancestors and Chukwu Kebiam and I go save us, I swear to God. But anyway, my people, I don't hear the message. What do you think? Just drop your thought at the comment section. I'm signing out.